Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hey lads, if we lose to Millwall, I'm going to do a little joke. Say Mauled by Lions. It's original that. I don't think anyone's done that. Anyway, welcome to the warm-up episode 87. I'm your host, Brady Frost, and to preview the Millwall game, I'm joined by Tom Bradshaw and Jim Chisem. Jim, I've got a little bio that Tom said I had to read. So you're a Town fan in a long line of Town fans. You've been the chair of the HTSA, and you coordinated the Huddersfield Town Heritage Project, as well as founding Fans for Food Banks and Sustainable Stadium campaign. Look at you. You support Town. Isn't that great?
No, thank you. It's an honour to be on the podcast, and frankly, the honour is all yours. So you're welcome.
It certainly is. It certainly is, mate. But, joking aside, that is some incredible stuff you've done. And me and Tom, I'll speak for me and Tom here. I think we agree and really support the Fan for Food Banks and the sustainability. Bit serious there, but it's not going to be a serious pod because we've got some silly questions. But Tom, anyway, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, Brady, mate. How are you? I heard your internet's unstable. Do you want me to record this as well?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Well, you have to give me permission, that's all.
Well, I've done it now while we're talking. Should we keep this bit in?
Yeah, definitely, because people will enjoy that. There we go. Beautiful.
Are you recording as well?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, fantastic. Hey. Oh, look at us being behind the scenes. Tom, you heard some news. Carlos Corberán is confirmed as West Brom manager this week. Do you want to let the listeners know how you reacted to the news when you were chatting to me?
Boo! That's the first time I've ever booed. Honestly, I cannot wait to boo him.
Fair enough. Jim, how are you feeling about that? Just quickly.
I don't care. It doesn't move me in any way. I'm sad to say. You've got to, we all have jobs and then go get other jobs, don't we? So it's fine. But I hope we get relegated. Not because of Carlos Corberán, but because of the West Brom. So yeah.
Fair. I also get really annoyed when people move on to other jobs because I've never done that in my life, and club loyalty counts. Anyway,
and if your employer's listening, you never will. So.
No, 100%, says the man who's had like 7 jobs in 5 years. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the Millwall game. So we've had 6 games in charge now for Mark Fotheringham, 5 points in those 6 games, and there's 5 games until the World Cup break. And the Terriers obviously need to climb up from the bottom of the table. Meanwhile, our opponents, Millwall, they're 6th in the league. They're unbeaten in 5, and they've won 4 in a row. Tom, did Town have any hope in this one?
Oh, mate, I don't know. The only thing potentially is it's still I think it's a good away record still, but they've got 4 points in their last 3 away games, and 2 of those results include a draw at Rotherham, who we've played, and you think, you know what I mean, if we can replicate kind of a performance against them at our spot, you never know. And then they lost to Blackburn 2-1. They haven't really had any big wins either. Like they're all very narrow wins. Most of them. There's only the 2 or 3 that look really good on paper, kind of thing. They look to be doing a bit of what we did last season. So I don't know. There's always a chance, isn't there, when you're playing a team that only wins by small margins. But they are looking very strong at the moment, Brady. So.
And I know you went behind enemy lines, which we'll hear a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was frustrated with how jolly he was being. He should be miserable like we are because we're bottom of the league. Jim, it's grim to talk about relegation for Town in October, but if they're going to climb out of the bottom 3, they need to be winning their home games regardless of the opponent, really, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, Millwall are a really well-run club. I think they've been very consistent in the last few seasons. I think they finished 8th, 9th, 11th. Obviously, there's stability there. Gary Rowett's, I think, one of the longest-serving managers in the Championship, if not in the top 3 or 4 or something. They're very good in the air. I think I read a stat that they've scored twice as many goals from set pieces as other teams So, on paper, they are a very good team. However, they are just Millwall. They're not Barcelona. So Huddersfield Town, no matter where they are, should be able to beat Millwall on any given day. So, yeah, we're rubbish, but it's the Championship and it's a competitive league. And if we would be sat here saying we'd struggle to get a point or 3 points against Millwall, then we may as well just be relegated now. So I think we can get 3 points, no problem.
I like that. And I've asked everyone who's come on as a guest, what have you kind of made of Mark Fotheringham and his start so far?
I don't know really. Like the kind of jury's out. It's been very up and down. I mean, if you took it in isolation, you'd probably say if you stretch that out over 46 games, it's probably mid-table form, isn't it? But there's been some clubs in there like Middlesbrough who aren't doing particularly well, Hull who are by all accounts horrendous. So I don't know. I think it's far too early to judge a manager. I think people are probably making those comparisons with Schofield because maybe he's inexperienced in this specific job. But I always kind of would like to give people 10, 15 games what is their style, what's their kind of attitude, what do they want to do on the pitch, and really 5, 6 games when you come in, particularly 9 games into the season or whatever it was, you just kind of trying to fight fires. And I imagine his remit until the break at the World Cup is just get this team, through the next 5, 6 games. And then when you've got a few weeks to work with them, kind of impose your style. But at the moment, I think it's game by game. Couldn't tell you what I think of him, to be honest.
Yeah, that's very well balanced. And we don't like that because I can't clip that up and, sensationalist stuff.
Consistently offensive, if you'd like.
You're welcome to. It doesn't stop us. But Tom, Millwall, I think it's fair to say, it is a bit of a daunting prospect given how poor we've been. Was there anyone who stood out for you in terms of players from the Lions?
Oh, there was loads, Brady. Do you know what? I really like the look of that team, that squad. Rowett's just built a really good Championship squad with a lot of depth. And when you look at all the players are getting involved, when you look at who's been playing as well, it's like they're all involved. I didn't really tip them to do that well this season. I don't think I had them in the bottom half, but I didn't think they'd be pushing up. But just looking at that squad now, but I've got like 20 names written down as usual. But I quite like that Jake Cooper at centre back. I think he's been playing a lot of games for them, and the one thing that they seem to be doing well this season is not conceding a lot of goals. And I always think to have a big strong lad in the middle, kind of just dictating stuff, is gonna win you football matches if you're keeping clean sheets or keeping the score down. So he's top of my list. Top of my list of about 17 players.
And your list was clearly sorted by is it height because he's 6'6"? Jim, what about yourself? Who did you single out?
That was like very, very insightful and suggests a great deal of research and knowledge. I've gone the opposite route, which is to be not very insightful, and he used to play for us. He kind of was consistent. He played 43 games last year, 13 goals. He's played 10 this season. He's scored 2 goals. I'm doing this purely on, I think it was Newton's law of an old player returning is, sort of the universe will align to make sure that he scores, which I think he did last time. So, more of a kind of astrological insight there from me, but I can't offer anything else, I'm afraid.
No.
Jim, does that mean that Millwall are going to at least score 3 goals with Murray Wallace and Scott Malone popping up with the other 2?
That is a possibility, of course. And for balance, due to the old Peterborough conundrum, we should play Jordan Rhodes up front and they should play Benny Kafobi up front, and we should see once and for all who will win.
It's a good pick. We've said it on the pod. I really like Benny Kafobi. I would have taken him back at Town in a heartbeat. But it's all right. We've got 2 former strikers who are back at the club, so I think we're happy with that.
Yeah.
Opposition key player. So I keep teasing it, but I've been working on a little project, which means I speak to every Championship club. And I was chatting to a Millwall fan, and they picked Sean Hutchinson, who's the captain, another defender. Mr. Reliable, he's called, aka Hutch. Again, hard to pick, but instead of going for him, I'm going to go for Callum Styles. He's playing me and Tom really like on loan from Barnsley. Scored against us when we beat Barnsley 2-1.
Right, got that as well.
Yeah, and I've just always liked him. I think he's really versatile, and I wish we'd got him on loan in the summer. I think we need that type of player, to be honest. So yeah, but I think it's interesting that none of us picked Ian Fleming, because I think he's obviously the one who's scoring all the worldies. So well done.
Tom Bradshaw's doing all right as well.
Yeah.
My twin. Then they've got George Honeyman, someone that we've always said is a good player, Brady.
Yeah.
Oh, my favourite thing is they've got a guy called Billy Mitchell, which I think is quite funny for a South East London team to have.
Absolutely, yeah. That is that's it's almost too cliched.
But I've got names for days here. Scott Malone's their top assists as well at the moment. It's mad, absolute madness. What is the world coming to?
He always plays really good against us, Scott Malone, as well.
He does. He's one of those players that we signed because he plays well against us, and then he comes and.
I think it's one of those things where he's probably just not a Premier League player, but he's a very good Championship player, so we just judged him a bit harshly, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
What, Town fans judging a player harshly? I won't have that.
I think I like all Town fans, and I think they're a very rational bunch, and I defer their wisdom on all things.
Very smooth, very smooth. Okay, tell you what. Speaking of smooth things, Tom, you were down London, weren't you? Down the Big Smoke. Talk to us about it. What did you get up to? Did you do the touristy stuff?
Yeah, I went to see Big Ben, London Eye, the Thames, the River Thames. That really big river that runs through. Went to see Buckingham Palace. That was quite interesting. But then I went to this really dingy little pub in southeast London and met up with a real life Millwall fan. So here is that meeting. Right, this is a first for the preview pod. I am in person behind enemy lines in a southeast London pub, unnamed pub. Don't want to have any backlash from this, with a real life Millwall fan. I'm here with a Millwall fan who goes by the name of Jack Skilton. I might bleep this out if he doesn't want to be heard to be fraternising with the enemy. But Jack, how are you, mate?
Evening, all good, yeah. Real life Millwall fan, one that's not in prison. That's a pretty important thing to be said. But yeah, no, I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you for coming on the podcast and giving us a little insight into Millwall this season. You go quite regularly, don't you? You're doing quite well. How are you finding it so far this year?
Yeah, we're doing well. 6th at the moment. It's not bad. That's Millwall territory, really. We flip-flop around. The start of the season, we tend to do well, then we dip off. Then we come back again. We've won the last 4, I believe, which is pretty good. Puts us in 6th. Somehow Norwich are now below us. I don't know how that's happened. They started the season so strong. But yeah, we're doing well. Yeah, I can't blame it. I think it's a good, tidy squad. I say this every year, but I honestly do think we've got a good chance this year of not even just the playoffs, but the top 2. Yeah. It's so tight, the Championship. Ooh. So tight. I do think
call,
we can push.
Jack. Big call. Top 2.
We just seem at the moment in a good flow. Yeah. 4 behind us with 1. The last few games we've lost have only been by 1 goal. We're in a good track. It's so tight. I think the points are only 4 points off the top. Yeah. So I honestly do think maybe this year could be our year.
It is well tight, that league this year. I keep looking at it, and that's one thing that's annoying me as a Town fan is how far off we are in a league that really every other team is beating each other. Yeah. But I think, you're looking good. Gary Rowett's been given time, hasn't he? Yeah. How do you think he's doing now? What is it maybe his 4th season about?
I can't remember which one. Yeah, I'm glad there was rumours that he was going to go or be sacked last year, I think. And so I'm glad they kept him because he's taken time. He's built a good squad behind him. People aren't leaving, more importantly. Yeah. So at the end of the season, it's obviously Championship, Premier League teams come and nick them. But we seem to have got a good base now. We seem to be like strong players, good players. And yeah, I think he's built a good culture there. The fans like him as well. So he's got a lot of passion behind him. So maybe that's why we're doing quite well.
That's good. Yeah, it's always to have a good base of players there. I mean, a lot of players sticking around. A few new this year, but has anyone stood out this season? You got any players that you think Town need to look out for on Saturday?
Not just because it's weirdly your name as well, but Tom Bradshaw is doing well. He's first or second top scorer for us at the moment. He's doing really well. Yeah, strange that it's the same name as you, but he's been consistently good for the last couple of years. And then Fleming, I think, is also top scorer as well. So yeah, he's quality. So I think. Obviously, I'm going to be biased, but I do think you're going to have a hard game against them.
Yeah, it's an interesting squad because you've also got Scott Malone, who used to play for Huddersfield. Yeah, I mean, he looked like a right laugh for us. I'm not being funny. I mean, he became a bit of a comedy figure. Maybe that's because he was mainly there in the Premier League for us, but when he was at Fulham and then when he's at you, he comes up and he looks a completely different lad. It's insane. And he's top assist then this season. Top assist,
yeah. Like you said, sometimes it's the club. Like maybe he just fits in there. Maybe the system works. But yeah, he's top assist. He's really good. I think he'd be a right threat for you guys. I mean, I'm struggling to find someone that's not going to be good. We've got a very good keeper as well. He's doing well. So,
I mean, you're on a good run. You're looking good, which sometimes is it a bit Millwall to potentially come up against bottom of the league and stumble. So I don't know if you'll go with a funny prediction like that, but have you got a prediction for Saturday, mate?
Well, yeah, like you said, this is Millwall, so the likelihood of us getting smashed 4-0 by you is quite high now. But I think this is such a good run behind us. We're so close. If we can push up to like third, fourth, that'd be quality for us. That's safe in the promotion. So I'm going to say I reckon about 3-1. We're going to let a goal in. We will. I think he will score, but I do think we'll dominate. I think probably 2-0 at half-time, 3-1 full-time. That's what I'm going to say.
A very confident Millwall fan here. Hopefully I can play this back to him later in the week.
When we get 4-0 and you actually do us over and then we go on an absolute losing spree and end up 16th. This will be the start of it. But no, every year I get my hopes up. They get dashed every year, but this year is going to be our year.
Cheers for joining me today, Jack. That's really good to hear from the Millwall side. And I'm jealous at how confident and just relaxed you're sounding about your football team at the moment.
This was Huddersfield last year. As I said, it swings and roundabouts in the Championship. You do well one year, then you get absolutely ruined the next year. So we're taking our moment in the sun. And let's see if we play you guys next season.
That's it, mate. Cheers.
Very exciting, and if people are looking to go to London, you've sold it well. Go to the attractions and then go to a dingy pub and talk to a Millwall fan. Okay, I think we're going to take a little break there, Tom, just because I'm disgusted by an opposition fan talking positively and being happy with how their season's going. So I'll calm down and then we'll come back. Okay, we're back. I'll put my head in the metaphorical freezer. So that means one thing and one thing only. It's time for the mailbag.
You've got mail.
Okay, so Tom, question for you. Do you want the silly questions first or the serious questions first?
Let's get the serious ones out the way.
Okay, like your style. Okay, so I was pleasantly surprised. Do you remember I set up that email address for hot takes?
Yeah.
Well, I was shocked, right? Because it actually got an email on it for the first time in ages.
What?
Because someone wanted to ask us this question anonymously. So,
right.
And they were very, very keen to not say their name. I don't know why, unless they're in witness protection.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's this. So the question is, first Town fans were begging Dean Hoyle to sell. Now he is. They're saying we're not worth a bean and no one will buy us. At what point do we say the club can never win and we're all a bunch of boring Scrooges?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to answer it, Brady. To be honest, that question. All I think with this situation is be careful what you wish for.
Mhm.
I know Dean has maybe made a couple of mistakes, but in my opinion, and I don't care, call me out, maybe call me a brown nose or whatever, but I actually think Dean Hoyle has done Huddersfield Town a really good job over the years. So it'd be interesting to see if someone does come in and sign it. And I think one thing, although we maybe don't have the money and funding, blah blah blah, but I think making football affordable for a place like Huddersfield is one of the best things that any club can do anywhere. You know what I mean? I'd rather be able to go to the game and be thinking, and it being affordable for as many people as possible to watch it, than the stadium being back to what it was when we were down in League One, League Two, and even a bit of the Championship when it maybe wasn't so cheap and we were only getting like 10, 11,000 in there. It's just not as nice as what it is now. Even though we're losing and stuff, it's nice to see people in seats and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair. Jim, I appreciate you're on the Supporters Association, but what do you kind of think to that question?
Well, yeah, luckily I'm not on the Supporters Association anymore, so I can say what I want, Brady. No, I would echo those sentiments there. You know, I think if you look at the last 10 years, it's been very successful. You know, starting in League One, going to the Premier League. Obviously, there have been problems and issues, and perhaps you might even say mistakes. I think there's a problem with how we kind of obsess over owners in this country. It's probably indicative of a very dysfunctional governance of football. And the finances of football. I think we're in a very difficult position where, you know, you have a big owner, he or she puts in the money as directors' loans, right? And you kind of have these two models. When they leave, and they do leave, they do a Jack Walker or a Dave Whelan, and they say all is forgiven, and they're a folk hero. Or they take some of the money in a sale and then they kind of take their money back as collateral from the club. And you have to pay back 20, 30, 40, 100 million pounds. I think there are other models, like, you know, clubs could turn those directors' loans into shares, do a share issue. You know, you could have multi-stakeholder kind of clubs, but the problem is now in this country we have a dictatorship of rich people, basically. No, I don't know. I'm not making a political comment on the wider, but football clubs tend to be owned by one or two people, and that's a very recent development. But it means that when those people decide to move on, it's very difficult for the football club, because when the new buyer comes in, he or she wants to be the dictator as well. So they don't look at that kind of like potential kind of open it up to as many shareholders as possible. They kind of go, well, I want to own 100% of the club. So, you know, I think the best thing that could happen for Huddersfield Town and every other football club in this context is that the government implements the recommendations of the fan-led review, so that, you know, there's just a bit more balance, a bit less inequality, and like a really key thing for football clubs, cost control. I mean, they're in, you know, every single football club in the Championship, including Huddersfield Town, is incapable of controlling costs. So I know that kind of went on a tangent, but it's never a good situation when an owner leaves, because they either have to kind of forego their own self-interest, right, or they have to kind of like basically go against the interests of the long-term future of the club themselves. So what I would say is, yeah, probably, in terms of if you look at who could own the club, right, what are the options? A local person who's probably got less money than Dean Hoyle. So that's a problem. You know, we don't spend as much money, you know, we don't buy as good players, etc. You know, I don't know, someone like a Marcus Evans, you know, who was sniffing around before, who you just really don't know their motives. Why would someone own Huddersfield Town if they don't have a connection to it? And then you've kind of got two potential foreign ownership models, which is, you know, kind of an American investor who might front load the club with debt, or you've got like a really dodgy foreign regime dictatorship who is using your football club to sports wash its image on the international stage, right? So if I look at all those kind of things, I would probably say better the devil, but there are no good options until they present themselves, if that makes sense. So as another man from Huddersfield once said, I'm an optimist, but I carry a raincoat, which was Harold Wilson. So in this sense, that's where I tend to be.
Very well said, Jim. I'll offer some balance here. You tofu eating wokarati. There you go.
Actually, I've got that tattooed right here on my.
No, really, really good point. I think I kind of tweeted about Dean to answer this question, but like, for me, like things are never black and white. I think it's particularly in football, it's really easy to be like, this is terrible or this is the best thing ever, when the chances are, like, most of the time it's kind of in between. I completely agree with you, Jim. I'd rather have someone who is a fan of the club, looking after it, protecting the best interests. I think, Dean, I don't want to be, like Tom said, accused of brown nosing, but the fact is, Dean has given me some amazing memories that I thought would never happen supporting Huddersfield Town, like beating Man United, going to the Premier League, going to 2 playoff finals, and it's just like I have some incredible memories, seeing some exceptional players that I'll never forget. So yeah, of course I have good memories, and of course I feel good. Do I think he's made mistakes? Yeah, I mean he is human, and I think we've talked about it, Tom, but he did step in to save us from Phil. You could argue from Phil's businesses failing, which could have put the club into administration. I know fans won't like to hear that, and maybe how Dean worded it in a programme, I know that rubbed people up the wrong way, but like he did do that, and we were very lucky to have that, as an asset. And I think we talked about it, Tom, like I don't think his heart's really been in it, if you were going to speculate this time around. I think as you've got to remember as well, that second season in the Premier League, he was really ill, from all accounts. It sounds like he wasn't, like, it could have been fatal, so I can't comment because I've never had a near-death experience, but I imagine that puts things in perspective as well. So it's difficult. I think in terms of Dean's legacy, I think for me, we have some great memories, and I've got to thank him for that. And, like you say, Tom, our season tickets, what's the max that someone pays? 300 quid? Like Borough, when we played last week, I think it's 600, and they're like a team a couple of places above us. And all the stuff he's done with the Huddersfield Town Foundation, all the charity stuff, it's been pedal for pounds. It's been incredible. I think, again, it feels like I'm kind of leaning more on positive than negative, but I think if you're unhappy about how things are running at the moment, which is fair enough, we're bottom of the league. There's been some questions about who we've hired in terms of managers. You can be critical, but you shouldn't. That shouldn't take away that he has a good legacy as well. You can have both. And I think, to be honest, for me, it really depends on who comes in. Like I would like to think, Dean, he's a fan, and I think I'd like to think he sells it to someone who's got good intentions with the club. That doesn't mean to say they might promise good intentions and that goes wrong. But knowing Dean Hoyle, I don't think he would sell it to someone who's, you look at owners who are interested, like in championship clubs like Lawrence Bassini. I don't think for a second Dean Hoyle would sell to anyone like that. That man needs to be away from football as far as possible for me. So it's difficult. And look, like, I'm not people might tuned out by now, but I'm not expecting, people to be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can have your opinion on it, but I think you can criticize some stuff he's done, but you can also accept that he has a fantastic legacy and he brought us a lot of joy.
Mm. I don't think he's ever, the takeaway for me from it is he's never done anything that has put the club in trouble, in my opinion. Like, it's all been very sensible. And like I said, Brady, he pretty much came in and stopped us potentially going into administration because of what happened to Phil's company. So, yeah, I just think mistakes happen in football. You can't. I just don't. Football's so funny in it. You can't really blame sometimes on decisions like that. Look, our model has been bringing in a young kind of head coach since David Wagner, hasn't it? It worked really well once, and then you maybe could argue, ooh, recently it's been a bit, and that's just the way Huddersfield Town want to do things at the moment. And yeah, I mean, if it worked once, why wouldn't you hope it works again?
I think
it did, didn't it?
But yeah, and I think that, the last 10 years or 14 years, is that right? We've progressed on and off the field, and I think you're right. One of the most important things is affordable football in a town like Huddersfield, which is not a wealthy town. I think some of the key questions going forward would be what happens with the stadium shares, what happens with Canal Side, in terms of ownership and club liabilities. Other question will be, what will happen with the directors' fees? So regardless of whatever nominal fee would be paid for the club, would that be would those directors' fee loans then be discounted, against that? Would they be paid in full? Would they be not paid at all? Would they be paid over 5 years, 10 years? With the stadium itself as well, there was kind of reporting around potential idea of putting all the shares from each of the three shareholders into a trust, with then a 10 to 15 million pound forwarded by the council and the club effectively taking operational control. There's literally probably between, I think, 6 and 10 million pounds worth of heavy plant machinery in that stadium that needs replacing, but very soon. I think talk about earlier about the sustainable stadium campaign, that's something where there's a real opportunity, not just to do the right thing in terms of sustainability, but to save money in the long term, because a lot of that machinery is 25, 30 years old. So there's all these kind of really important questions that I think it's important to ask. And it would be remiss of me to kind of point out that I know it's HTSA put on their Twitter account that there's an ATT meeting on the 10th of November, and they want you to send them questions. And if one of you would like to attend, any of you listeners out there, on their behalf and ask those questions directly, they'd be more than willing for you to do that as well. So I think it's a sad time, because it's an era, certainly for my sort of life as a town fan, being aware of those issues around ownership certainly wasn't for a long time, but it's been a really big, defining, important era. But obviously, the club, Dean Hoyle, have signalled that a new era is coming, and I think fans should be very involved in how that kind of emerges, really.
Absolutely, and I think I think it's probably a time for a reset. I think for the reasons we've talked about, and change is scary. We don't know necessarily what's going to happen, but hopefully we could see something different, see something positive. I know I was chatting about, to be honest, we've been having a bit of a debate in our WhatsApp group about it, and I think in a weird way, us going to the Premier League, it was a miracle. And I think when you have a miracle like that, it changes expectations. And I kind of compared it in a strange way to Leicester winning the Premier League. Like, I think it really changed the opinions of the fans about, well, what should we be, and I think a new ownership might help with that, might help change expectations, because I think it's hard to be like, oh, actually, we're kind of typically a lower mid-end championship table club, but occasionally we can surprise and beat the odds. So it's kind of hard to swallow that, maybe, as a fan, if you've been to the Premier League. I think it's fair to say. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, we could go on about this for ages, but I think, Huddersfield is a club that has good potential. I know loads of people say, oh, well, we need Leeds and Manchester and stuff like that, but I think me and Tom were talking about it, like, when we did spend a fair bit of money in the championship, like bought people like Schindler, which, again, not like big money when you look at some of the other fees, but big money for Town. Like, we can do well. So hopefully, that could be a potential. But Jim, you're spot on. Like, you want to feel like it's still part of our club, and I think that's something I would give Dean credit. I always felt proud of Town just for the stuff they did off the pitch, and whoever comes in, I'd like that to carry on.
And I think Town are a big club, like, historically. I think probably, I'm guessing here, but, if you put us in our entire history, where would we be in the big, 92 league table? We'd be about 20th. We were always an innovative club, whether it was with stadium infrastructure, whether it was bringing in the likes of Chapman or whomever. I think Huddersfield Town are a big club, a successful club, when they ignore what everyone else is doing. And they kind of go, we're going to do this innovative thing and damn everybody else. We're not followers. And I don't think it's unreasonable for Town fans to have those standards. I don't think it's unreasonable for any fan to have those standards. Football's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to, get you out of bed on a Saturday morning. And so I think that's what Town need to do. They need to not be bothered what anyone else is doing. And I think in some ways they're doing that with this kind of new model. But I think, off the field as well, like just keep that mentality going. Don't focus on anyone else. We're Huddersfield Town. We're very unique. I think that was the problem in the second season of the Premier League. We'd come in and we'd had this great story and we were like, we're different to everyone else. And then the second season, it's kind of like, okay, we're just going to do what everyone else does. So I would say that's a big part of Huddersfield's identity in general, is just being a bit stubborn and being a bit contrary. And so I would say whichever new owner comes in, put your stamp on it and don't be afraid to kind of maybe jettison some of the little old Huddersfield, small dog in a big fight. Just be like, big club historically, and maybe not, a big club now, but a club that will do things its own way.
Yeah, well said. I think we can talk about that for probably another 3 hours, but I think it was really good to have that, and obviously very topical. So we'll move on to the now, which is we got a question from Marcus Burler. He asks, what have you made of Fotheringham's recent press conferences? He's noticeably a bit more docile in his presser, and then interview after the game, he's less critical of Nakayama, like in terms of full criticism, and he's now saying like Kamara will make mistakes because he's young. Do you think it's him or the club changing? Tom, do you want to take this one? Any thoughts on that?
It could be a bit of both, couldn't it? I mean, when you come into a club like this and you're in the spotlight, you're going to get some sort of advice training, and then he might just be being a little bit conscious of it as well. You never know, Nakayama or etc. Hoggy might have had a word with him as captain, being like, look, some of the lads maybe don't react well to this kind of thing. I think simple as that, Brady, to be honest. Jim, any thoughts? I'm guessing you probably agree with Tom.
I always on everything. I think it's one of those things as well, isn't it? So, he's been an assistant manager, and as an assistant manager, media duties aren't necessarily something that you would take responsibility for a great deal of the time. So I think it's probably a bit of a learning curve, and, he's on it. And so what more can you say? Sometimes, football is a soap opera, right? It's like sort of 24/7, and there's a need to generate controversy and outrage and interest, and sometimes things aren't controversial or outrageous or very interesting. So this is probably just one of those matters.
You would say that? Oh, I'm so outraged. No, I agree. I think look, like, we're all frustrated. We don't want to be bottom of the league, and I do think like some people want to pick an argument that's not there. But we've talked about that.
I mean, we are crap, but not because of media, duties. So
yeah, true. I mean, anyway, like, I agree with you though. Like, it's his sixth game in charge as a manager. You're going to be learning, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like, every fan base is different. So I think we've said enough about that. Okay. We've got an actual football one, and then we'll move on to the silly ones that we got. Thank you to everyone who sent in silly ones. It really made my day. And if I don't have to talk about Town in a negative way, it's all good. But before we move on to that, Mark Harrison asks, what was Scott Malone's best moment in a Town shirt? In what minute will Benicophobe score on Saturday? And can Murray Wallace swim faster than a shark? Scott Malone's best moment when he went down in the Man City game, or was it Chelsea? And to
won the free kick to basically see the game now. He was one-on-one, wasn't he, at Man City, and then fell over just before he was about to shoot or something like that.
Yeah. What minute will Benicophobe score on Saturday? I'm going to go for the 17th minute. There you go. And can Murray Wallace swim faster than a shark? No idea, but let's set it up and see what happens. Tom, any advances on that?
I'll just. I don't think Murray Wallace can swim faster than a shark.
Okay.
I just don't think he can. He's not that boy, is he? Is he that boy who could? Maybe he wasn't, but then he just got better at football. There's not many sharks up in Scotland, though, is there? I don't think. Maybe a basking shark.
Maybe. I mean,
they're not very fast, are they? Either. So actually, Maybe he can.
Well, I mean, I don't want to, I do like Daisy penalties and I don't want to put a stop to that. But if Rambo wants to set that up and Murray wants his game at half time, who knows? Okay, cool. Right. Tom, this is one, I'm only going to ask you this. Dean Smith asks, would Alan Lee, brackets the amazing elbow? Don't know for definite that Alan Lee's the
Yeah, we don't.
He's got a mask. We don't know who he is. Would Alan Lee make this current team stronger? We are struggling up front, but would adding a useless elbow-swinging striker be the answer? Not useless. Did the job. Tom, take it.
Alan Lee makes any squad stronger, in my opinion. So yes.
Jim, any thoughts on Alan Lee? Would you take him in his town prime now?
Yeah, 100% troublemaker. That's all you need. Yeah,
we do need a troublemaker, don't we?
I do actually have an answer to the Murray Wallace question. So
go on,
apparently, according to knowledge definitely in my brain and not a widely available database, the slowest sharks are Greenland sharks, and they swim under a mile an hour. And that is according to the September issue of the Journal of Experimental Marine Biology and Ecology, which obviously we all know is a very reputable publication. So I would say if it was Murray Wallace versus a Greenland shark, he's got a really good chance. If it's Murray Wallace versus Danny Ward, it's less clear cut.
Very well said. Very well said. Okay, this was one of my favourites. HTAFC Stato, he asked, what do you think of Tesco's disgraceful decision to raise the meal deal price to £3.40? And what is your go-to meal deal? Stato, get a club card, mate. Still £3. That's a bit of consumer advice for you there. So you'll have the savings. For me, Tesco specifically, I tend to go for a chicken and bacon sandwich. Sometimes chicken and bacon stuffing, depends on what Tesco I'm in. I always go for an apple and grape snack pack as my snack, which I know a bit controversial, but I don't know. I feel like I've got my meat, I've got my fruit in there, and then I might go for a nice coffee. On the occasion, I might get the pork pie or the little mini Cathedral City cheese if I'm feeling a bit fancy.
Oh, that's weird, isn't it? Just cheese in its own.
Yeah, but do you know what? I like cheese, mate.
That's fair.
It's all right. What about
I'm
you?
not judging in any way,
Yeah. What's your meal deal? Go to.
I don't know, really. I haven't had a meal deal. I used to work at the Currys on the Great Northern Retail Park next to the stadium. Every day I used to go to Boots for a meal deal, and I just every day for like years. And then I can't, ever since I left, I can't do any kind of meal deal. None of it. So I steer clear, and I just eat all the wholesome good things.
But what was your Boots meal deal? If you have
my Boots meal deal was it was like the tomato and cheese pasta, like as the main, not a sandwich, which I know is pretty controversial, and then some cheese and onion McCoy's crisps, and then like an innocent smoothie because at the time I thought they were really healthy, not just pure sugar.
You criticise me for my block of cheese, and then you've had two cheese.
No, I know, yeah, but I was young and naive, to be fair. So you might be young and naive, but you should know better, in my opinion.
Tom?
I try, if whatever the options are, but I always try to go for prawn sandwich and then probably
prawn sandwich brigade.
And then salt and vinegar crisps, and I like to put the salt and vinegar crisps inside the sandwich as well. And then I go sugary, some like Coca-Cola, or I don't know, if an Iron Brew sneaks in there, I'll take that.
Nice.
It's a terrible meal, that, when you say that.
It's a balanced meal.
Maybe it's been a tight northerner, but I also go for the best value sometimes. Try and get the most expensive things so you get the biggest saving. Shout out to Pozza as well for saying if Town were a meal deal at the moment, they'd be the just ham sandwich, ready sort of crisps and a bottle of water.
Philadelphia little sandwich. Yeah.
Great. Jim, Matt told me to ask you this specifically because apparently you've got a good story. So, how tall is tall, or do we just get Edwin van der Sar to judge every case individually? I have no idea what that means, so please enlighten me.
In a former life, I used to work for Football Supporters Europe, and we had a meeting at Ajax at the stadium and one of the boxes, they sent round Van der Sar, who at the time, I think he still is the director of football there. We're all having a chat and kind of stuff, a bit of banter. And I'm relatively tall, I think like yourself, Brady, you're tall, man. And when he was leaving, we kind of shook hands and were saying our goodbyes. And I just said to him, it must have been nice just to hang around with a fellow tall person for the day. And he walked out kind of like in Columbo style. He turned round and he just went, "You're not tall." And just left. So yeah, I'm 6'3" to be fair, but he's obviously very, very tall. So yeah, it's pretty brutal put down, and I've frankly never recovered from it. So.
I would really want to animate that. That's a great story.
I've got a photograph of me and him
turn
just
to
before the
camera.
moment. Yeah, I'll send it to you. You can use it as a reference point.
That's incredible. And mugged off by Edwin van der Sar. There you go.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think that's it for the mailbag then. Thanks for everyone who sent in their questions. Do you know what? If we're still bottom of the table later on in the season, I think we'll do some more silly questions because it's cheered me right up. Anyway, we were previewing Millwall, so let's go back to that because it's time for You're the Boss. So the previous lineup for the 0-0 snore draw against Middlesbrough was 4-2-3-1. We had Nichols, Turton, Lees, Helic, Nakayama, Kasumu, Kamara, Thomas, Rodoni, Holmes, and Danny Ward. Any variants on that, gentlemen? Tom, thoughts?
Thoughts indeed, Brady. I'd maybe take Turton out. I don't know. Turton's solid, but I just don't think he offers anything a bit further up the field. But then I guess the question is who then goes in there. I really like the look of Jackson, but you'd be putting him on the right when he's been playing left, hasn't he, Jackson? So yeah, that's a question. I like everything further up the field. Though I think for me, I like that partnership in the middle. And then you kind of your front three, Rudoni being further up the field, and then it's the question every week, isn't it? Do you start Rhodes or Ward for me? And I don't know. I think at the moment it's one or the other.
Who would you go for though in this one? If you had to
in this one, I'd actually go for in this one specifically. I'd go for Jordan Rhodes because I think he could handle their defence just a little bit better. I feel like, not saying Rhodes is stronger than Ward, but I feel like Rhodes uses his body a bit better against bigger defenders, and that kind of backing into him and stuff, and being a bit stronger off the ball. So yeah, probably go with Jordan on Saturday, I think.
Nice. Jim, any thoughts to the lineup? Would you change anything?
I think I'd say relatively. I think it's very important to have height in the team for defending set pieces. So the two things that might change. So I think Kasumu might be a bit of a liability if we don't want to concede a lot of free kicks.
Yeah.
This is going to be horrendously controversial, and I will be cancelled, but I'm not on Twitter, so I can't be. But maybe someone like Russell just has that height just to be a body in both boxes, basically. I don't know how that would affect the balance and dynamic of the team in open play, but I would be very, very wary of set pieces, and I wouldn't go too gung-ho for this game, even though it's at home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to cancel you for Russell. Fotheringham was saying he's been doing extra training sessions, so he clearly wants to get back in the side. So who knows? And we've not seen, unless someone corrects me, I don't think we've seen Kamara and Russell together. So that could potentially work because, as a two. So I don't hate it at all. Okay, in terms of the lineup, I sent this to Tom. I've been thinking about whether I should do this or not, but regardless, I'm going to do it. This is the worst thing I've ever done on this podcast. I was bored the other day on my lunch break, and I came up with a Halloween Town 11. Terrible puns for each players, and you can laugh or cry with laughter, or laugh at me, or just groan. But here we go. So in goal, we'll have Lee Nick Gouls. We'll have Oliver Hurtman, Michael Hellick. Oh, interesting that one. Tom flees, as in like flees from danger. Ooh. Boo to Nakayama. Grave Id Kasumu. Etienne Skemara. Gorba Thomas. Bat Radoni. Payne Holmes. And Danny Horde, as in Horde of Zombies. Any stanza?
They're all excellent. They're all absolutely excellent. I think I should just end the podcast now, finish it.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
We've won the internet.
I did send you a really bad one as well, didn't I, as the manager?
Go on then, do it.
I don't think it makes sense, but Dark Goffringham.
Which really made me laugh because I just immediately thought like Mark Fotheringham on the touchline listening to like My Chemical Romance. Well, he does like to listen. He says it a lot. I'm going to tweet that out after we recorded this, and I look forward to the abuse. Or do you know what? You know the vibe of this podcast. So if you want to bring in your own scary puns, please do. But we can't end the podcast there. We've got a match prediction to do. So what are you guys thinking for this one, Jim?
Absolutely boring and say 1-1. I think it'll be tight and tense. I think both teams have got a goal in them. But yeah, 1-1.
Mm.
Yeah, Tom.
And that's based on nothing whatsoever. Apart from me just popping two numbers into my head and pretending that it was based on some kind of prior experience or knowledge.
Are you doing what I do, which is when I think Town are going to lose, I say 1-1. That's my go-to.
Yeah. No, I don't. Like I say, it's on the Millwall. We don't have to worry. It's on the Millwall. We got a point at Middlesbrough. We've won a game. We've won a game this season. So I think they're a tough team, and I think a point would be quite good at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've also gone 1-1. Read into that what you will. I think Millwall should win this game really, but we're at home. We need to win our home games. Yeah. So we could actually get a draw here, and I don't think that'd be bad. Even though we should probably win this game, like we should be looking to win this game really. But yeah, I think a draw.
Points at the moment, though, Brady. Get some points. 2-0 Town.
Nice. Okay.
Nice.
I just think I'm being like kind of. That Millwall are due a loss and they're playing bottom of the league. It's like one of those, isn't it? You've classic. You go where you're doing well, you play bottom of the league, you lose. So maybe we'll be that bottom of the league team for once.
Yeah, maybe.
Finally, we're bottom of the league.
To keep the Halloween theme going, Tom, could you say we would cause them a fright potentially?
Yes.
Nice.
We'll cause them a fright potentially. Did you want me to say that? You're gonna like
No.
It was well directed and well acted in that.
Okay. Anyway, before we go, Tom, we could do with a hero, especially if there's going to be some villains out with it being Halloween weekend. So, what's it time for?
The amazing elbow.
I think the fans can probably see I was trying my best, working hard.
The amazing elbow.
As a centre forward, the last thing you want is a goal drought starting off at a club. Started on my own up front, and the really good centre forwards like Jordan were rested.
Okay, Tom, take it away. What happened last time?
So obviously there's loads going on now. It's chaotic. There's a brawl on the pitch. There's dizzy penalties, and people voted that Neil Warnock is the mystery man at the back of the cowshed, and he rides down the cowshed, pops a wheelie over the hoarding, does some donuts on the pitch, which annoys the ground staff, makes them pretty angry actually. And ... And people voted this week, and they voted that the ground staff turns out to be an undercover Kevin Muscat. And we all know how much Neil hates Muscat, don't we? That's for Muscat, that. So, Warnock. So, it turns out to be an undercover Kevin Muscat. Warnock's eyes squint in anger as Muscat does the same back. They slowly both reach for their pockets, and then all of a sudden, ... Jim, have you got an answer? Would you like to go first?
Yeah, well, I've maybe overstepped the mark in the sense that I'd kind of maybe guessed what they might have in their pockets. So I've got, in steps a dishevelled but determined Jason Davidson, man bun and all. He says, "That's not a knife. This is a knife." And that, just in case you were, for those listeners out there, that was meant to be an Australian accent.
No, it's not. That's a spoon.
Knifey Spooner. You played Knifey Spooner as well.
Very good. Simply you'll be happy with that one. Okay, Tom, can I go next?
Yeah, go on, go for it.
Well, you know how much we love Warnock, and if you're talking about that key scene in between Muscat and Warnock, you'll remember someone was butted during that, weren't they? They got butted, lad. So Warnock pulls out a whistle, which he blows on, and Paddy Kenny comes running out and headbutts Muscat.
That's better. I like that.
That's good.
Anything with Paddy Kenny in is sure to be tragic comic.
That's good. Yeah, I wrote something down, but it's actually quite dark. Actually,
Tis the season, Tom.
I've put Warnock pulls out a gun, shoots Muscat, and it becomes the cover of Steve Bruce's book, The Striker.
Finally, the long-awaited sequel, the fourth sequel we all want.
Wow. Well, you know, Steve Bruce has got a lot of spare time on his hands, so yeah, if he's not following the cricket, he can be working on that long-awaited sequel.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So good luck to us doing the Twitter poll, but your three options are: Jason Davidson comes in and says, "Call out a knife. It's the knife." Paddy Kenny emerges and headbutts Muscat, or Neil Warnock shoots Muscat, and that becomes the cover image for Steve Bruce's Striker sequel. That's 25 characters, isn't it? We will see. I look forward to the drawing. Tom, I gave you praise on Twitter earlier, but you did an excellent job of Neil Warnock doing a wheelie and doing donuts. That really made my day. So thank you very much for that. And well done for carrying on, because you mock at how many votes we get, but people obviously enjoy it and we get tweeted about it a lot. So keep going, mate. Go on.
All right. Cheers.
I echo those sentiments as well. I'd just like to put my moral spot in there.
Thank Leave me a 5 out of 5 review on Google. That'll help as well.
Oh, what?
We'll do.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. Everything. Just everything.
Everything.
Yeah,
do it for this podcast as well. Rate this podcast.
Yeah.
Talking about 5-star reviews. Say it's great. Or else. I tell you what else is great before we wrap up. 10% off all online orders when you shop at Magic Rock. Use the code AHTTC10. We are sponsored by Magic Rock, as you guys all know by now, surely. So get buying that beer, particularly if you're going down on Saturday as well. I think that's it, lads.
I've got a case of sorcery in the fridge for the weekend. So, low alcohol content for those out there who can't handle alcohol like myself. But, highly recommend it.
Nice. It's a good drink. Like all of Magic Rock drinks, I love every single one equally, as you
absolutely
town supporters. Yeah. I think that's it, lads. Anything else, Tom? Anything you want to say to the town fans before we shoot off?
Loud and proud Saturday as usual. Yeah, let's just get behind them. Jim, do you have anything?
I've completely forgotten why I originally came on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just came to me. So I will never be able to match Brady's topless charity stunt, which I sat there and watched in a state of confused arousal. But I am hiking for 2 days from Manchester Piccadilly to Huddersfield via Marsden and home for I'll be sleeping outdoors overnight on the 5th and 6th of November in aid of the Welcome Centre Food Bank and under the Fans for Food Banks banner. Obviously, don't need to tell anyone, it's a very, very tough winter for a lot of people out there, and particularly in communities like Huddersfield. And the Welcome Centre does a lot of fantastic work, largely relies on volunteers to put food on people's tables. So I have... I said if the fundraiser got to £500, I would do what every sane person does and say that I would go to Twitter and ask them what fancy dress should I wear. So I'm wearing a full Leeds United kit. So it says it will be a 40-mile hike. I have a feeling as soon as I step out of Manchester Piccadilly station and walk through the Manchester suburbs, it might be like a 5-yard hike. However, I'm doing it, and we're now on £1,175, which is amazing. Thanks to everyone who's donated. And if we take it to £1,500, I'll add a third day, and I will finish at Elland Road.
Ooh.
So all you have to do is go on GoFundMe, type in Welcome Centre, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. So any donation really appreciated. Realise it's really hard for everyone at the moment. So, but even if you can spare £1, it doesn't matter. And that is why I originally asked to come on the podcast. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, well done, Tom. And we'll include the link in the podcast description if anyone does want to donate. I think you should. The Welcome Centre is fantastic, as Jim says, and they do a lot of great work. And particularly, it's going to be a tough winter for a lot of people. So needed more than ever, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I think that's it. So yeah, that's it, lads. Thank you so much for coming on. Tom and I will be back to preview the next game. As always, win, lose or draw, mostly lose at the moment this season, we will still be there. And that's it. Ta-ta for now, and up the town.
So town, play up, bring the car back to Huddersfield.